Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. And of course, you good old boys from Africa, you know we love the Big C tribe. We love you in Canada. But Big C, there's no one we love more than you good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful May the 11th, 2018. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, we made it to the weekend prior to Mother's Day down here in the South, and we're all excited about everything that's going on. We got the NBA Finals getting ready to start. The Eastern Conference and Western Conference Finals. We got the NHL Eastern and Western Conference Finals starting. Charlton, we've had baseball players hitting the balls out of the park, hitting grand slams at a record pace.
Yeah.
We're just excited. You know, it's so many things going on in this great world of sports. And we also got the barbecue grill fired up for the weekend.
Yeah, well, that's always good to have that barbecue grill fired up for this weekend. I do want to say that for all the beautiful mothers around the world, we want to wish you a very happy Mother's Day weekend from Big C Sports. We know the world is full of a lot of good things going on and also some trying times for a lot of people. But there's something about Mother's Day that makes it special. And I do want to say this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. You could drive a car or you could drive a Cadillac. Big C, I just know that everybody's happy on Mother's Day. And for those of us who are fortunate to have our mothers around, anywhere on the planet where you're listening, not only do we love sports and politics and just being real, but we love wishing a happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers out there that have done so much to birth us into the world, done so much to keep us our bellies fed, to keep clothes on our back, food on the table, keep us headed in the right direction when we get out of line. Big C, I just want to get your thoughts on all the mothers out there in this beautiful universe of ours and what your thoughts are to all the women celebrating Mother's Day, Big C.
Well, let me put this one thought first and foremost, Charlton. My mother's the only lady to use a leather strap on me that I didn't appreciate, okay? I got a little gripe with her about that shit. But I love her so much. I mean, she taught me so much, Charlton. She's been the apple in my eye my entire life. I mean, it was the first beautiful face I ever saw. And I've appreciated it ever since that day, Charlton. I mean, she's been there for me through thick and thin. You know, she helped me through educationally, Charlton, telling me what to do and what not to do, making sure my homework was done every night, Charlton. And even when I left home, going off to college, you know, it was the person that I could always call and talk to. Even when I wanted to quit college and come back home, she said, "You ain't got no home to come back to."
Yeah.
She didn't give me no option. You know,
Yep.
She didn't give me the option to fail, which I appreciate so much.
Yes.
But that door has always been open, Charlton, and that heart has always been open. You know, one of the most gracious women that you could ever have in your life. And, you know, I've been blessed to have one in mine.
Well, I think for a lot of people that think that they got wherever they got on their own, and I know there's times in my life where I've met people who say, well, I made it on my own. I pulled myself up by my own bootstrap. I've yet to meet the person that breastfed themselves out of the womb. And I know a lot of times people say, well, my success is based on my hard work. And I put in the time, I earned it, and nobody ever helped me get anything. And that's such anathema to their own mother. And for people who think, well, they should know I love them. I mean, I call her once a year. She should know I love her. And there are times when people say, well, you know, I tell you I love you, so that's enough. And sometimes all mothers really want, and I know mothers that follow Big C Sports and any other program, only you can speak for what it means to be a mother. Some kids appreciate you, some kids don't. That's a fact. And sometimes we can take for granted those who do the most for us because we're caught up in our own world. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Sometimes you got your own problems. But I know for me personally, what I love about my mother is she made me understand to respect my grandparents. You know, her mom, her grandmother, called great grandma, and on my mother and father's side, having the chance to experience that as a young boy, it shaped my life today. Big C, you brought up something, helping you through good and bad times, not just good times, because there's even some great entertainers. They sing those songs about, you know, Mama, I love you. Tupac had a song, as you know, there's no one that can compare it to my mama. There's so many musicians that have sang those songs. So, you know, I think Tupac was a truculent guy. Sometimes people didn't like the words that he's read, Big C. But just give me, like, is there any entertainer that could say what you felt in your heart about your mother, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you know, growing up, there was a group called the Spinners, and they paid a tribute song to his mother, you know, Felipe Wayne, who was his lead singer, and you know, everyone called his mother Sadie. That was her name. But you know, he had sung this song about his mother passing and stuff. How she used to get him up early every Sunday morning, and you know, he'd have a very little time to eat his breakfast because he had to hurry up to get to Sunday school. You know, and her heart was filled with the word of glory, he said. And you know, he spoke about it. There's a heaven up above. She was teaching angels how to love, because he placed the one above her.
Yeah.
And you know, that's a powerful statement, Charlton. And I think any man and any woman who has aspired to great heights in America has that woman that they can look back at, because she was always there. As you spoke about, you know, who's the first person to start breastfeeding themselves out of the womb? Who's the first person who changed their own diapers and fed themselves period, who cleaned themselves, who taught themselves how to read, you know, helped them walk, and, you know, cleaned up their scrapes and scratches, Charlton, when they fell, you know, was there to coddle them, you know, when they weren't feeling well, when they had a fever, who stayed up all night long worrying in anguish about their child, Charlton. So when you think about what a mother does, Charlton, no one could ever imagine that. You think about the 9 months that she carries you with no charge, didn't charge you a dime, you know,
yeah.
Gave birth, you know, went through that agony. It was the most joyous moment in her life to see you, to see this little bit of her there, Charlton.
Yeah.
So when you think about what mothers have given, you can never give anything back to equal what they have given you in life. They gave you life to get you to the point of where you are success. You can look around the world, and that's one of the things that I look at, is that athletes always say, I want to thank my mom. Because mom was the one taking them to practice, picking them up from practice. When they came home, if they had an ankle sprain or a scrape, mom was there taking care of it. I remember my mother used to put peroxide on the wounds that I had from football, because back in those days, Charlton, we had these metal cleats.
Yeah.
And you ended up with a lot of scrapes on your shins and things like that, in your arms. And so she would sit there, you know, to keep the infection down.
Yep.
She was caring for me. I mean, it bothered her that I was hurting.
Yeah.
She didn't show it as much, but you could see it, because she was attending to all these little things. And, you know, just anytime you had a scrape and you came home, I mean, it was breakneck that mom was there to take care of you. She didn't say, you know, I'll get to you in a bit when I'm done with what I'm doing. She could be cooking dinner.
Yeah.
She would stop cooking dinner to make sure that you were attended to. That's the love that your mother has for you, and will always have for you, regardless of the generation. I know times have changed,
Yeah.
but still, the staple of any household is the mother. Whether there's one parent there or two parents there, the mother is the staple and the foundation of any successful person, Charlton.
Well, I think that is so true. And we talk about, you know, there's something, you know, we also want to have fun. You know, my mother told us to laugh and talk, and we talk about, why do men love the breast of the chicken so much, Big C? You think men love the breast of the chicken, and we come out of the womb, and the first thing we get is the bosom. We didn't tell it's not a chicken bosom, so we kept growing up ordering the bosom. I mean, you just something about the bosom that connects us to Mother Earth. And I'll never forget a time in my life, and there's been a lot of them, where I thought I was on top of the world. Like I thought I was doing so great in life that nothing could knock me off of that totem pole, and thinking you're on the very top. Everything is going well, you know, everything is easy in life, and sometimes you're going along and you step in some quicksand, and one of the first things you do when you step in quicksand, metaphorically, is you scream out to God for help. But after you get that help from God or the universe, a lot of men, I can speak for black men specifically, I can't speak for every group of people, but a lot of us, we are mother's boys. You know, you're a mama's boy. I love being a mama's boy. And I know that in my good and bad times, outside of calling on God, I always called on mom. And she always would scold me at first. You know, I told you why I'm going to do this to you, right? Why you're going to be punished. And for all the men who are in trouble in life, I can guarantee you one thing. I would say at least 99% of those men or women who are in trouble right now, you're in a spot you don't want to be in. I can guarantee you, 99%, if you had listened to the wisdom of your mother, you wouldn't be dealing with what you're dealing with now. And I know this show, Big C Sports, we love talking about things that are real. And I know there's a lot of mothers that I've met over the years, and they say their kids don't even call them unless they want something. That's the only time. Or if they want a babysitter, they want some money, they want some whatever. But they don't call just to see how you're doing. Mama, I love you. And then those same people, it's like, I'm not saying I'm perfect. There are times when my mama used to call it what we call smelling your piss, Big C. When you're smelling your piss, you think you know more because you're right around that teenage year. And I think a lot of mothers can attest to this with their own daughters and sons. There comes a time as a teenager, you start wanting to challenge the intelligence of your parents. You want to start challenging the intelligence of somebody who feeds you, who clothes you, who gives you food, clothing, and shelter. You think you know more than they know. Why? Because somebody's blowing in your ear and telling you you're great. And I realized that my mother at a time, I used to hang around some foolish people. She told me they were foolish people and told me I was foolish for hanging around them. That could hurt sometimes. But what I love about my mother is she tells me the truth. And there are times my ego was too big to listen because I want to do it my way. You know, what that good old boy Frank Sinatra say, I did it my way? You know, Frank would have been more, I guess he would have been more accurate if he would have acknowledged his mother. I did it the way my mother taught me, which is maybe to do it your way, stand on your own. So for all the mothers around the world, the ones who are hurting, the ones that don't have kids that check on you, the ones that forget you're still alive, I want to say from Big C Sports that we want to say Happy Mother's Day to you. And I really want to take time to say to the grandparents out there who have been mothers to our mothers and raising generations of families, especially in the black community, oftentimes not even appreciated by the ones that used to clean your butt. As you grow up, you forget what they look like, you forget where they live, you forget their phone number, the one you use for free all the time. So for those mothers who feel underappreciated, Big C, why is it so important that people can atone, especially on Mother's Day weekend, and go back and say, I'm sorry, I have my own problems, but I love you, and I want you to know that, Big C? That's really important, your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, I don't call it atonement. I call it go and show your appreciation. You know, that's what you can do more than anything else, to say, I'm here because you allowed me to be here. That's what you have to look at when you're a child and you're approaching your parent. I think one of the greatest moments I have, especially with my mom, is that we'll get on a first-name basis. And I know when I was a kid growing up, whenever she was mad at me, she used all three words in my name. And it's like, I didn't even want to know where she was now at that point.
Yeah.
But she would yell it out, my first, middle, and last name. It was like, oh, my goodness. You know, I knew I was in trouble at that point.
Yeah.
But now I can call her on the phone, or even when I see her, Charlton, you know, I use her first name. And that's the greatest thing, because she'll fire back and still use my first name.
Yes.
You know, and then we go to mom and son, you know, at that point. But, you know, I always feel that I'm respecting her as an adult, even when I call her by her first name, because I grew up and all my friends and other people who came to the house called her by her first name as a form of respect. They would say Mrs. and say her first name. But, you know, that's what I look at when I say her first name, and we smile at each other when we do that, because she always told me, I look like my dad and stuff. So,
Yep.
So I would do that.
Yes.
And so, we would have fun doing that, Jonathan. But to see your mother, even if words are not transcribed back and forth between the two of you, just to hug and to be in the same room. I know when I used to come to my mother's house as an adult, I would just like lay on the floor in front of her. And to me, that was being comforted for me.
Yeah.
I just lay there. I didn't need to sit in a chair. I just wanted to be as close as I could to her. And so I'd lay on the floor in front of her. And she would always tell me, get up, you're not a dog. I said, no, but I'm always here at your feet because you are above me.
Yeah.
I'm here worshiping you. And it makes me feel good.
Well, I want to ask you a question. As two African American men, we know because we're not dumb people because our parents wouldn't let us be that way. I know that all life came from the African continent. Now, why is that so important? And like I've been told as a young boy, if you know where you come from, you respect your root better. I know farmers who take care of their crop. Like a parent takes care of her crop, they're called children. And when you pay respect to that, it doesn't just mean in words. And some people say, okay, I'll call you, I said I love you, I'll give you a card, bye. And I've heard a guy that I knew growing up, and he had moved away, go to college, and I asked him, how often do you go home to your mama? He said, man, I'm out of there. I've lived my life there. I'm a grown man now. Why would I go back? And I just thought, what about respect? And I mean, that wasn't preaching, but I realized that I think I had the best mother in the world. I know a lot of men say that. Not every man say that, because some men that we even praise as athletes, they've actually launched lawsuits against their own parents. What kind of kid is that? But you can Google who they are as we praise them for suing their parents for whatever reason. But I just want to say one more time, for all of the mothers, all over this great universe, I've had mothers that were not even my biological mother that took care of me, that when I went to college made sure I had food, made sure that I had a place to sleep, made sure that I had all my courses together, that I was focusing on getting an education. There were mothers who took me in when I was a college boy, staying away from home, that made sure I had work. They were not my biological mother. You can have a surrogate mother. So for all the mothers out there that may not have a biological child, but you do things that feed people, you never know if somebody is hungry. You never know what somebody's going through. You never know if they're broke. You don't know if they're sick. You don't know anything. But for the mothers that took the time to treat you just like you're their own child, that's the mother that I want to say Happy Mother's Day to. Even if you don't have kids around. Even if your husband's gone. Even if you have no one there but you and God and whatever you're doing to get through. I just hope that you can listen to what Big C Sports says, because all we're telling you is what our parents taught us. I know Big C probably brings those wildlife game. Did your mother ever let you bring a snake in the house, Big C, because you were trying to impress her with your skills? My mother never let us bring. We could bring dogs in, but we could not bring snakes and crocodiles. Did your mother let you bring snakes and crocodiles, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Jonathan, if he was diced up and in some water, and he was ready to go in some flour and some salt and pepper, and the grease was hot, they could come in the house.
Yeah, that's funny. I was always able to get the catfish and the mother would go out and fish all day. She'd go out and fish until sun up to sundown, but fed me and my brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews. And so again, I just want to say, for all the mothers out there, it was important to open our show not talking about politics, not talking about athletes, not talking about the sports business, but to pay homage to the mothers out there that are wishing their son or daughter would call. Or some of them, their kids can't call. Some of them are passed on. Some are incarcerated. Some have with their own issues. They've checked out in life. Life gotten tough on them. Somewhere in line, but for the grace of God, here we are. There's no way that we have done whatever we've done in life on our own. When you think about Big C Sports, I think about two African Americans that have access to intelligence and sports and politics, and we share that with the universe. It's just our perspective. It doesn't mean it's for everybody. But I've always craved, I've yearned as a little boy, Big C, to always be inspired by men who were not afraid to tell me the truth. And even though many of those men have passed on, their message was like a good seed they planted. So life is like running a race, and you have a baton. And we can go and say Dr. Martin Luther King had a baton, and he handed off to the next generation. Well, here we are having access to the airways because of great men who were not afraid to do great things. They weren't always loved, Big C. But one thing I want to say I respect about you is I know that you're a hard worker. I know that you've put in the time. I know that you've owned business. I know that you've been a professional athlete. I know that you've been someone that provided. I know that you've gotten to the mainstream where a lot of us don't fit as African American men, and you never dumb down yourself to get there. That's what I respect about you. You don't dumb down your intelligence and act like an ignorant sycophant just so you can sit on someone's talk show and shuck and jive with them. And I see too many men that do that. And I know you can probably attribute that to your mother telling you always hold your head high and don't hide your brilliance. And some of the things that I've said to you on a private note that I'll say publicly for the whole universe to hear, I mean the whole universe to hear, is I have a partner in you that I know that you strive for greatness, you strive for intelligence, you strive for having reverence for your mother. You talk about that all the time. And in being bold and black in this country that for the most part has had anathema before black men. For all the beautiful black men that still say, Mama, I love you. You know, I learned a lot from you that growing up down in the South where a lot of people just been beaten up by Jim Crow mentality. Not you. So for whatever that means to you, people are watching and people are listening. So that's why when you speak the truth, and they can Google that. I learned that from you, Big C, and I appreciate that, and I just want the whole universe to know that I'm grateful to you and your mother for teaching you to be that way, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Jonathan, you know, one of the things that my mother always tells me is that I need to grow up. You know,
yep.
Because I enjoy being childish around family. I have nieces and nephews that we go at it. They've always looked up to me since they were little, and, you know, I was a professional athlete, so I always have kept that same mentality with them. It's like time has not passed.
Yeah.
But when we're around each other, we're going at it. And it, to me, it gives enthusiasm to my mother because now all of a sudden she's become the police all over again. You know? She's correcting everybody, telling people to stop, sit down, be quiet.
Yes.
And so that vibrance is still there with her. And it's like, when you know, I'm around my daughter, she reminds me so much of my mother. She's always telling me that I'm childish, that I'm the oldest kid that she knows, that I need to grow up. And I'm like, you know, you listen to your grandmother too much, okay? You know, but that just shows me the generational thing in life passes on. It is that when you have grandchildren that spend enough time with their grandmother and grandfather that they can listen to the words that they say and emulate them back to you.
Yes.
And this wasn't something that my mother told my daughter to say something. This is just something that she picks up from her because she cares so much about her, because she's been an influence in her life. And so she'll use the same words because she said, okay, if it's good enough for Grandma to do this, then I can do this. I can get on his own butt. You know?
Yep.
And he can't say anything back to me because his mom says it to him.
Yeah, I think that's so important. So, again, for all the mothers out there all over the universe, you don't have to have, and for the people who say, well, my father wasn't around or my mother wasn't around and you don't understand, there's somebody who was a mother figure in your life. May not have been biological. I have a biological mother, but I have a lot of beautiful women in my life that have opened doors for me, made sure I had a full belly, some knowledge, and told me I love you, I believe in you. You're going to do great things. And even when sometimes you don't believe them, they keep telling you, you're going to be great. You're going to do great things. I believe in you. I love you. Pray, love God, believe in yourself. So I just want to say to all those mothers, we thank you very much. And from Big C Sports, to all of the mothers all over this beautiful universe, we want to wish you a happy Mother's Day weekend. Big C, I do want to say this segment is sponsored by Ben and Mark. Ben and Mark's been around for half a century. They work with pro athletes, collegiate players, your high school players, even your mom and pop soccer leagues, and they work with Big C Sports. And when you reach out to them, let them know that Big C sent you at 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. You know, Big C, I wanna say to my brethren in Canada, I told you last night, and I know you laughed at me, Big C. You were laughing like you're watching Richard Pryor when I was praying to the universe that we would have a team from Canada that's pursuing Lord Stanley's Cup. And people say, well, Charlton, why you like Canada so much? Number one, they have health care for their citizens. Yeah, you may have to stand in line, but they got it. And Canada also starts with a C. And I started Google. I said, C, Canada. That's like Big C Sports, so it can be Big Canada Sports for you could have won already, okay? But I want to get your thoughts on Winnipeg, how they're like Obi-Wan. You're my last hope. They're the last hope to host Lord Stanley's Cup because we have cities like Las Vegas, cities like Tampa, and Washington that are playing for the Stanley Cup. What does it mean that Winnipeg represented that country in such a great way that they can still hear, "Oh, Canada"? Fixie, your thoughts.
Well, Charles, you know, it's a plus and it's a negative when you realistically look at it. You're probably talking about the smallest market in the NHL.
Yeah.
Winnipeg, Canada. And when you talked about a nation being behind the Toronto Raptors, because it was in the largest market in that country. But now we're looking at Winnipeg, Manitoba. And I still got to Google and see what all that means.
The earth is flat there, yeah.
You know, that helps the NHL. That's the thing you have to look at. Yes, it's great to have a Canadian team.
Yes.
But, you know, it would be much different if it was the Toronto,
The Maple Leafs, yeah.
Or the Montreal, you know, I'm trying to think of the team of Montreal.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you look at those major markets, they were a part of the original six in, you know, the NHL. And now we're going out here, you have Winnipeg versus, you know, Las Vegas. Think about this, Charlton. You got an expansion team.
Yeah.
And you have a team in the smallest market. Which one would the NHL really be pulling for marketing? Because when you look at trying to get numbers in the U.S., and people saying Winnipeg, and everybody's got to figure out where that is to make it to the final.
Yeah.
You know, versus Las Vegas, which is still the greatest story in the NHL. To have an expansion team that has gone further this year than any expansion team in the history of professional sports.
Yeah.
To have them in Stanley Cup, I mean, it's really going to make the NHL change a lot of things of what they do. And on the other hand, when you have the Tampa Bay Lightning trying to get in there versus the Washington Capitals.
Yeah.
So for the NHL, Charlton, when you're realistically looking at you're looking at the Washington Capitals, a major market with Alexander Ovechkin, the leading scorer in the NHL.
Yeah.
And three-time MVP versus an opportunity to go against the first expansion franchise ever to have an opportunity to play for an NBA title, Charlton.
Yeah.
So the Winnipeg Jets are a great feel-good story. They came back into Winnipeg a couple years ago, Charlton, after leaving that city over a decade ago, coming back and to establish themselves. They're sort of like the team that they beat, the Nashville Predators. And we spoke about that in our program, that there really wasn't a home court advantage for Nashville because prior to last night's game, Winnipeg had won 2 games in that arena, Charlton.
Yeah.
On the road in the playoffs, and that's a tough feat to do in any league. But
yeah.
I don't think that it's the greatest move or the greatest want of the NHL and Gary Bettman to have Winnipeg in the Stanley Cup, because realistically, you got to look at the households in Canada, especially in Winnipeg, that are going to be watching. I mean, like I said, it's not the major market in Canada. I mean, you got Vancouver, you got Toronto, and you got Montreal.
Yeah.
I think are the major markets up there.
Yeah.
Even Edmonton, that has won several Stanley Cup championships, Charlton, they're a greater market to have. Calgary's also won. But, you know, to have this, who in the U.S., when you talk about marketing, is going to pay great attention? I mean, you don't want to downplay a team, but we understand sports is about money and marketing.
Yeah.
How intriguing would it be to have Winnipeg in the Stanley Cup?
Well, I tell you what, for the one thing that could help them is they're going to get all the TV programs, all the big markets in Canada, perhaps they'll get it, that are going to pull for that little engine that could, almost like when the USA knocked off Russia in the Olympics, and Al Michaels said, "Do you believe in miracles?" Maybe that effect will be something where everyone's going to root for the underdog when it comes to that. But I wanna ask you, because I know you've traveled quite a bit in Canada. When you've been to so many cities up there, just on vacation or visiting, the atmosphere for hockey is huge in markets. Just like here in the United States, the atmosphere for the NFL and the NBA are off the charts. NBA action right now, I don't know if we've ever had a better time for NBA. Maybe better teams, but the media and the focus on and making things bigger than what they are, being pedantic and making people bigger than what they are and stories bigger than what they are. We've never seen a time like this. If you're a young boy and you're in Winnipeg, what is it like growing up? Do you have other options? I know they have CFL football and they have hockey, but what do people do growing up there? Here they play any sport, especially California. What's it like when you're a young boy and you're growing up in Winnipeg to get your interest in wanting to be the next great NHL player? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, being up there above the Montanas and Dakotas, in the wintertime it's cold.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
If nothing else, it's cold. So it's going to put a lot of limitations on what you can do outside activity-wise, And hockey has always been the heartstring of Canada. So you know that all the kids are going to grow up there thinking hockey first and foremost. Because, like I said, looking at it, that's all they have is hockey. You said they got the CFL team there. So, when it's not football season, it's hockey season the rest of the year. Probably even during football season, they're playing hockey also. But I don't think that you have the attributes in that city that you're going to have on the east and west coast of Canada. We know that Vancouver is one of the most beautiful cities in the world.
Gorgeous.
And, at one point it was even called Hollywood North because so many U.S. films were shot up there because of the dollar exchange. And we look at Toronto, which is a total metropolitan metropolis, and we've seen the following with the Raptors, Charlton, and they're playing the NBA, as well as everybody knows who the Toronto Maple Leafs are, one of the best marketed jerseys in the NHL, with that big leaf on the chest of that jersey.
Yes.
So, but, when you look at the smaller market, and we've talked about Canada, it comes together as one, as a country. When they're pulling for an organization, we saw that with the Raptors in the playoffs. And so I think you would see that same type of activity and exuberance with the Jets being in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference or Western Conference Championship.
Yeah.
You're going to have a whole country pulling for them. And that gives you a lot of motivation as a player. It gets those endorphins kicked in that you got a country riding on your back, not just your city.
Yeah.
Where here in the U.S., people tend to pull for that city that's in their market, that team, and really not have that much concern about everybody else, Charles.
Big C, talk about...
When you look at the teams that are left in the NBA, you got people thinking about those teams. And even in the NHL, when you think about Vegas, in the NHL, semifinals now, conference finals, Charlton, how much of the country really pulls for Vegas?
Yeah.
You have to look at that as far as the hockey purists that have been around forever. I mean, the Lightning have played in the Stanley Cup before, Charlton.
Yep.
And so that's their, nest egg right there.
Yeah.
The Capitals, people have wanted to see them there for decades, and they finally have a chance. So one of those teams will eliminate the others. But when you just look at markets, what would serve the Stanley Cup the best? I mean, you talk about the Lightning playing down in Tampa, Florida.
Yeah.
Hot. It'll be 90 degrees during the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah.
And you look at Winnipeg. So you go from the hottest market, heat-wise, to the smallest market if those two teams make the final.
Yeah.
Or you can go to Vegas.
Yeah.
The newest market that really hasn't established a legacy, but they have just shocked everybody.
Yeah.
In getting to the conference finals, Charlton. And the Washington Capitals, the team that just never has fulfilled its potential since Ovechkin has been there with the organization.
Yeah, that's a good point. When you think about the Lightning and being a part of the NHL chasing Stanley Cup, imagine the cultural experience when you leave Winnipeg and you're flying down to Las Vegas. Not only, I told you, nobody wears clothing here in California, Big C. That's why them good old boys back in the day saying they wish they all could be California girls. I remember that song. They sang it better than me, but it was still a great song. And when you get off the plane, you know, getting off the plane in Las Vegas is almost like walking into an oven. When you open that oven, you get that pig roasting, Big C. You want to see that pig is ready, and you want to pork him with a fork to see if it's ready. Well, when you get off the plane in Vegas, everybody knows it's like you're walking into an oven. And for them to go down there, not only that, but there's a cultural lifestyle difference. I know that everything goes in Las Vegas. You say everything goes on the West Coast. But the West Coast is a little bit farther than Las Vegas, Big C. So when you tell everything goes, you lump us in with what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, okay? What's it like for the fan base of Winnipeg to be baptized into the lifestyle of Las Vegas, where they put women out there on display with hardly any clothing on, and they've made it seem like women are part of what you get, no pun intended, when you come to Vegas? That cultural shock, it has to be, and again, I've never been to Winnipeg, but that has to be a cultural shock for people getting off a plane from a kind of down-home atmosphere to Las Vegas where everything goes. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I'm not sure now whether they have igloos and things like that up in Winnipeg in the wintertime. I just know it gets cold. But, you know, you look at the cultural variance of a city of lights versus a city that is snow white, you know, in the wintertime. So there's a huge difference that you're going to be looking at. And just the lifestyle, I can't imagine a Canadian city being open 24 hours a day like Las Vegas. So will that be a detractor when the Jets go to Las Vegas to play those road games, Charlton? And even the fans, will they be paying attention to the games, or will they be paying attention to certain places you go in sports, Charlton, can just be overwhelming to you.
Yeah.
And that's something that you have to really pay attention to. How overwhelming a certain arena will be for players. And to go there and see the magic and the glitz of Vegas versus the subdued, laid-back, small-town atmosphere that you're going to have in Winnipeg can be challenging for those players, Charlton.
Yeah, it surely can be. And then you contrast that with Washington and then Tampa. Tampa's more of considered a retirement community. It's a beautiful city, Tampa, St. Pete, and then you have also with the Buccaneers down there. They have everything that a lot of older people and even younger people love Tampa. But that environment compared to Washington, D.C., people make their money in Washington. And then when they go to Tampa, it's usually for retirement, even though it's a very progressive city. They have NFL football, they have NHL, and then you look at what they're doing with Major League Baseball. So that's a city that has every sport that people love in the United States outside of basketball. But at the same time, you're looking at that environment. It's not really known to be a sports town compared to cities like Boston or Washington or San Francisco or LA or Chicago. But they've managed to win. They've managed to have success. I hope the NHL is successful. I just know it's taking a backseat to the NBA, and I don't know what they can do to not compete against the NBA. It's kind of foolish competing against it. And I'm going to ask you a dumb question because I know tradition is important. Would they ever consider starting the NHL playoffs after the NBA playoffs are over, meaning they would have to maybe move it back a month and a half? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I don't know if they want to move it back a month and a half because you got to look at the NHL, Charlton. It was around prior to the NBA. You know, it's something that goes back decades, and it was always a big sport. It's just expanded so much. I think to offset the two seasons, Charlton, to start one a little hit, you don't want to start it later because now you're moving into the NFL preseason if you started later. You got baseball that is going to be at its height. And the thing about hockey, Charlton, you think about it as a winter sport, but you're playing the finals in the summer. So you might want to move it, back, move it up a little bit starting. Maybe start it 2 to 4 weeks earlier than when it starts. Yeah. So that you're really playing these winter classics, Charlton. And when it ends, it's ending in early spring, Charlton, when it's still chilly out sometimes. But like we said, here it is. You can go to Vegas. It can be 100 degrees for a hockey game in Vegas. You go to Tampa, it can be 90, 95 degrees in Tampa for a hockey game. That's not hockey elements, Charlton, that you're looking at. So one of the things, if you do anything with the NHL, start the season 2 to 4 weeks earlier. get those players in. Don't go head-to-head against the NBA because it has become so large of an industry.
Yes.
Well, when you look at the NBA right now, Charlton, in the playoffs, you have the two most marketable teams in the league that are in their conference finals. Nothing out there will compete with that. Baseball, Charlton, would not compete with that. You see, if you have a Bay Area game, with the Warriors, Charlton,
yeah,
you're not going to have anybody at AT&T or, the state
Coliseum.
Coliseum. So many names over the past several decades that you can't remember what it is.
Yes.
But, if you look at those two and the Warriors are playing, Charlton, neither one of them will be 50% capacity during that time.
Yeah, that's true.
Then on the other hand, you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers playing. No one's going to go to an Indian game at that time.
No.
They're going to have all eyes on the Cavaliers.
Yeah.
So that's something that's very difficult to compete against, Charlton.
Yeah.
And Houston, even though they won the World Series, they've had a drought since the mid-'90s when the Rockets won back-to-back championships. So that city is eager and hungry to see if these Rockets can get over the hump. The Boston Celtics, we know the tradition in Boston.
Yeah.
With their legacy of championships, Charlton, more championships than any team in NBA history. Even with the great Red Sox with the best record in baseball, if they have a chance to knock off the Cavaliers, all eyes in Boston will be on the Celtics, Charlton.
Well, when you make that statement, and that's a good point to make, now that we've had time to, how you have that moonshine and you gotta mix it up, you sit it in the barrel and it starts to ripen, whatever, ferment, whatever you guys do, you can't wait until you can get a sip. So you get that little ice, you put the ice in the cup, and you slush it down, Big C. I learned the hard way. You got to sip it slow, because you sip it too fast, you'll be laying on your backside, Big C, from what I experienced myself. But when you think about how we just talked about Mother's Day, we talked about the NHL. Now they're the time that we all talk about, how are you feeling about this series coming up with Golden State and Houston and Boston and Cleveland? I know we talk about who are the best players, who are the players that are going to have to play a great series, not just a great game, but a great series. And we're going to find out. It's a shame the way it's set right now, because I truly believe, and a lot of people do, that Golden State and Houston are the two better teams. And Cleveland and Boston, they're ancillary. But without LeBron James, no one cares about Cleveland. If you look at Boston, they don't have Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward, but they still cared about, at least on the East Coast. If you take Houston and you look at someone like a Chris Paul, people want to see Chris Paul win a championship. Well, not the Warriors, and people want to see if Harden can win a championship, but not the Warriors. And same thing down in Texas. They couldn't care less if Curry or Durant won another championship. But what player, Big C, on either team could you afford not to have in the game or in the series, and you still have a chance to win? And the only team that I can see that is so loaded that even if one of their star players was not there, they still would be favored to win the NBA championship. It doesn't mean they will. My friend from Vegas thinks it's going to be a four games to 2 for Golden State on the West Coast. East Coast, not sure yet. But which team could lose a player for whatever reason, and you would not diminish their chances of winning a championship? Because that has to make a lot of points for a lot of people. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I look at the equal balance on the Western Championship Series, Charlton. I think the most demanding player for Houston to keep in the game and stay out of foul trouble is Capella, their center. The young guy can clog up the middle. He can grab rebounds, Charlton. He's been double-double throughout the playoffs. I think that's the one player that Houston cannot afford to lose. Everyone puts their eyes on Harden and Paul, saying, these are the engines of this team. But that force in the middle is what kept Houston stable throughout these two playoff series that they've won, Charles.
Yes.
When you look on the East Coast, Boston is such an interchangeable team of young talent, Charlton, and they have players that make matchup problems for other teams. And so you really can't single out a guy on the Boston team and say, hey, this guy has to be here every night. We know as Al Horford has gone throughout the playoffs, Boston is tending to follow suit, and so he's been a guy that's just chugged along. He's that veteran stabilization position that every organization needs. And we know what the King does in Cleveland. But without Kevin Love, he's a one-man band. People keep talking about his accolades. But Kevin Love is quietly going out getting that double-double, 25 and 11 rebounds in the last 3 games, Charlton. And without that, Cleveland would not have won this series against Toronto.
You know what, Big C? What you just brought up about Kevin Love, when Kyrie Irving was there, they were saying what Kevin Love's the number 3. Well, Boston made the playoff Eastern Conference Championship without Kyrie Irving. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they made the Eastern Conference Championship without Kyrie Irving. Does Kyrie Irving's stock drop a little bit? Because had LeBron James not been on Cleveland's team, there's no one in the universe that would think the Cavaliers would be in the Eastern Conference Championship. I know a lot of people said, well, Kyrie left because he doesn't want to be LeBron's shadow. He wants to show that he can do it on his own. And maybe he will be able to come back and do it. But I do know this. I know Cleveland is in the Eastern Conference Championship, and I know the Boston Celtics are there as well. And Kyrie Irving's not playing for either team. I know he's a great player. I know he's a difference maker. But he didn't make a difference in Cleveland not getting there, and he didn't make a difference in Boston not getting there. Did his stock drop just a little bit, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think it's more of a tribute to Brad Stevens, the head coach in Boston, than it is to Kyrie Irving. I mean, even with Tyronn Lue, with all the changes he's had to go through in his lineups, massive trades and all of that, it's always nice to think that one player is the guy to get you over the hump. Kyrie Irving reminds me a lot of Chris Paul. When Chris Paul left New Orleans and went to the Clippers, everyone said that, okay, now this is the piece that's going to get them to the NBA Finals. And he never got there, Jonathan. He never got it past the second round at any point of his career while he was with the Clippers.
Yes.
And so you got to look at he and Kyrie Irving, quite similar type players, Jonathan. You have to be in the right system. And I don't care what type of player you are. I mean, you look at James Harden. He's been to the NBA Finals before.
Yeah.
But he went there with an OKC team that had Kevin Durant, Westbrook, Adams, and Ibaka.
Yeah.
So he's tasted what it's like to be in the NBA championship. But he hasn't gotten there since he's been in Houston. He ran up against this juggernaut last year that said the Warriors.
Yeah.
And they eliminated him. They made him look very pedestrian when everybody said he was the second best player in the NBA.
Yeah.
So, it's the individual has to be part of a concerted effort to work as a team. And until you establish yourself as that guy that team can't win without, Harden missed 14 games this past season.
Yeah.
Don't overlook that. 14 games. LeBron James missed none.
Yeah.
And that's the difference in the Cavaliers. Think about it. If LeBron James had missed 14 games, the Cavaliers would have been a 7 or 8 seed in the playoffs, Charlton.
That's a good point.
That.
Yeah.
James Harden missed 14 games, and the Rockets were number 1 seed.
Yeah.
So who's really important, Charlton?
Yeah. That's a very good point. And I love when people draw the matchups, and we'll see a lot of matchups drawn this weekend on Sunday and Monday. Yeah, I know it's must-see television. Everybody wants to watch it, especially in the Western Conference Championship with Houston and Golden State. When Houston was always competing for a Western Conference, it would be Houston and it would be the Lakers back in the day. I'll never forget Ralph Sampson, where he hit that last-second shot, kind of tipped it in, spun around, and the ball went in and they beat the Lakers and knocked them out of the playoffs. And Ralph Sampson was so tall and lanky. I don't think we have that type of thought this year happening. I don't think that's even a possibility where there's going to be some unexpected player that comes in and makes a difference in this game and who's going to win this series, Big C. I do hope for all the people that love the sport, for all the people that love basketball, I don't know what we're going to see. I just know we're going to see some good basketball. And I hope that these games are played so that everybody can say, we had a chance, we didn't have anyone kicked out of a game, out of a series, that we put our best foot forward and we won or lost based on that. But I want to get your feeling on when you're a top player and everybody's expecting you to do great. Even when Golden State had gone without Curry and without Durant, combined over 30 games, they still finished with the number 2 seed in the NBA, not just in the conference, but in the entire NBA. but they've missed two of their better players. Two all-star players didn't play combined over 30 games in Durant and Curry. Not many people can do that and not win, because and some people say, well, what about in Boston? Irving missed a game. He missed the whole, pretty much the year, half the year, and then Hayward. But they're not the same level of players as Durant and Curry. I don't think you can say they are. I know Kyrie's a good dribbler, but what he does for his team, again, his team made the Eastern Conference Finals without him. Golden State, you couldn't make it without Curry. I just don't think they could do that, Big C. So have we seen right now where Steph Curry and Durant is going to decide who's the MVP on Golden State? Win or lose this series? And I know my friend says pick Golden State in 6. I think the team that wins game 1, knowing they only have to win 3 of the remaining 6, has a tremendous advantage. And of course, you got to steal a game on the road. But you don't want to play from behind in this series. Obviously, somebody's going to start out 1-0. But Big C, your thoughts on who is better capable of coming back, losing that game 1, and coming back to still win that series? Would that be the good old boys in Texas, or would it be the good old boys out here at Golden State? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Jonathan, I look at the series that both of these teams played in their previous round. They both lost the game. But I look at where Utah was compared to where the Pelicans were in their series and matchups. Is that Utah took the Rockets to the limits most games, Jonathan.
Yeah.
They were there all except for that last game, and so they created serious matchup problems. And when you look at Utah as a whole, they were not as athletic as Golden State, with Gobert in the middle and Ingles, out on the wing as a power forward shooting three-point shots. They didn't have that overall team speed. We saw how Donovan Mitchell constantly went inside into the paint. If not for Capella, he was a dominant figure in playing defense, because James Harden is still playing duck and dodge when you ask him to play defense. It's like he's playing dodgeball. And so that's why I think Capella is so important in this series. If Golden State finds a way to get him in foul trouble, Jonathan, or make that mismatch with him. Now, who is he going to guard if they don't play one of their bigs in the game?
Yeah.
What does that do to Capella, Jonathan? Does it take him out of the paint and open up the lane for the Warriors, a team that can penetrate to the basket, who are great passers? They can make Capella non-factor in this game if they play it right. That creates huge problems for Houston, Charlton.
Yeah, and I appreciate that thought, Big C. I think it's just going to be a fantastic series. As we close out on NBA, I want to get a little bit of thought on golf, but I would be remiss if I didn't say, I want to congratulate you again for the moonshine that you sip, because I thought we were being flippant when we talked about Casey being fired in Toronto after having the best season in the history of that organization. And then this morning, as I was watching some of the news feeds, and I saw how they got rid of their most successful coach they've had in that program, took them to the most wins, 59 regular season, that they've had. It's not Casey's fault that they kept running up against this guy that eats vibranium for breakfast. His name is LeBron James. And some people say, well, it's the effort. They didn't give the effort. When you're up against a bigger, stronger lion, a guy that's just more dominant, and a team that's been there before, it's not Casey. He's not the reason they lost. I look at DeRozan and I look at Lowry. They just could not match up to what Cleveland was bringing, Big C. And people know that. I think you get hired to get fired. That's just a fact about the sport. But how many people get fired after having their best season that the franchise has ever seen, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Jonathan, we've seen that with a few minority coaches, okay, that's happened. We go back to Golden State's dynasty. Who started that out and got fired after 52
Mark Jackson.
Season?
Mark Jackson.
Mark Jackson. We see that in Toronto with Casey. You could not get rid of enough players out of the roster. That's what management looks at. So since we can't dump 2 to 3 of these contracts of critical players, Jonathan, we have to dump the coach. Now, who do we go out and get that has proven that he can win? That's the critical question. Now you have 5 opening as head coaches again in the NBA. You had 5 last week. 1 was filled. Now you have 5 again. The Hawks filled their position. I think the Bucks are close to filling theirs. But you got 5 positions that are open for NBA head coaches. Just like with the NFL now every year, Charlton, let's fire a bunch of guys and see who we can go bring in. And when you look at Casey's success, but what people are pointing to is his lack of success in the postseason. You know, there are growing pains for a lot of teams all the time. We talked about the process at Philadelphia, where they were clearly outcoached, Charlton, in the playoffs. Toronto just got outplayed. You know, LeBron James has been on a heater. You know, he reminds you of a baseball pitcher when they say he's on a heater. He's untouchable.
Yeah.
That's where LeBron is right now. He's untouchable. And you have to put him up against a team of tremendous athletes, which he most likely will face out of the Western Conference. He'll be up against a team of tremendous athletes. But LeBron will still rise. He's still going to get his 40 points a night. It's going to be left up to his teammates to try to find a way to score 65 points or more. You think about it. The Cleveland Cavaliers have to get 65 to 70 points from the rest of the team because LeBron is going to get his 40 in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And if they fall less than that 65 points, Charlton, they will lose those games.
Well, I tell you what, that is just a shock to hear that a coach that was a coach of the year voted by coaches. They don't have the media one out yet, but the coaches voted him coach of the year. And to take that great franchise and make them a basketball relevant city, in a city that loves hockey and CFL football and all the other great people that love going in and watching baseball with the Blue Jays, I just thought it's a slap in the face and it's a knee-jerk reaction to let him go. Big C, I want to say congratulations to all of the teams that are advancing to your playoffs. I want to finish out with golf. I know Tiger Woods made the cut, but Phil missed the cut. And, you know, we talk about getting these two together, but golf is erratic at times. And even though Tiger is somewhat back, I don't see Tiger being at 5 under. You know, he's always flirting around even par or 1 under or 1 over. And I know it's going to take some time to come back from back surgery. But is golf going to be relevant over the weekend with the NBA and the NHL playoffs with Phil not being there with Tiger Woods? Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, it won't. You know, people know that Tiger's not in the chase, that come Sunday he's not going to be up on the leaderboard. He can't come from 14 strokes back, Charlton, to challenge anybody. And when you talk about the process with Tiger is that Tiger doesn't play enough. And until Tiger gets to the point that he decides that he's going to play in every tournament that comes up, you know, he's not going to be competitive. That's just it. You have to keep swinging the club. You know, it's just like a batter in baseball. You have to keep swinging the bat to get out of a slump. You just can't go up there and keep taking pitches.
Yeah.
And that's basically how Tiger is right now. He's just going up there taking whatever's there. He's not playing the game consistently or frequently enough to be competitive. And when you look at the guys who are always on the leaderboard, Trump,
yes,
they don't miss tournaments. They don't take a month off like Tiger used to do when he was good. And that's what Tiger needs to remember. You used to be good. And so you could take a month to 6 weeks off between tournaments.
Yeah.
You could play only in the majors because that's where the money was. And you knew the sponsorship would be there. And you would even make the money outside your appearance fee.
Oh, yeah.
To be at the majors. You know, when you had $1.5 million appearance fee, you didn't care about winning.
No.
But that appearance fee is not there anymore, Charlton. The appeal to a degree is there.
Yeah.
But it's how long will people keep hanging on and say, well, you know, he's only good for 2 rounds, and that's it. You know, he's not going to be competitive on Sunday. I mean, when you look at the galleries that he and Phil had followed him the last 2 days, it was the top gallery on the course.
Yeah, yeah.
But on the weekend, it's not going to be there. I mean, people will still follow Tiger.
Oh, yeah.
But Phil is gone. Ricky Fowler was enamored playing with these guys. He didn't play as well as he should because he was awestruck being with Tiger and Phil and the size of the crowd that followed them.
Yeah.
When you get in that fishbowl, Charlton, it affects you mentally when you're not used to it.
Yeah.
And that happened to Ricky Fowler. But Phil, I mean, you know, even today, you know, he comes out with his long sleeve T-shirt on. Phil didn't look like he wanted to play. He had on a long sleeve dress shirt.
Yeah.
You don't play golf like that. I mean, you would have thought that one of the guys from the course would have said, hey, let us go over to the pro shop, Phil, and get your shirt because you can't go out here with this on.
Yeah.
But Phil was marketing a product of his.
Yeah.
So not only was he out playing, but he was doing a personal endorsement.
I noticed. I caught that, Big C. I'm glad you pulled it up. Big C, we wish everybody success over this beautiful Mother's Day weekend from Big C Sports. Back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bundini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you've got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Charlton, I'm looking forward to this beautiful weekend of Mother's Day and all the excitement that will be brought out from the sons of those great mothers, Charlton, as they go out and compete in the NHL Conference Finals and the NBA Conference Final. And also those sons, Charlton, that will be out there on the baseball diamond this week playing in the sweltering heat, paying honor to their mother. But the one key thing I want to mention about Mother's Day, Charlton, we have it labeled for one day on the calendar in May, okay? I have it marked on my calendar 365 days a year. I want to thank you, Mom.
What a beautiful way to close out Big C Sports. And you can close it out with us every Monday through Friday at 5 to 6 p.m. worldwide. We can follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. And as we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, especially on Mother's Day, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.